Roll the footage. Jay, welcome to the Sprint Club. And guys, if you have been living under a rock, who is Jay Abraham? He's the world's #1 breakthrough consultant, recognized as one of the top executive coaches in the United States by Forbes. He invented concepts that you have heard and might be using, like risk reversal, power partnering, the unique selling proposition, amongst others. He's the author of many books, like Getting Everything You Can Out of All You Got, the Sticking Point Solution. He has contributed 4 masterclasses to the Sprint Club recently. He invented the Strategy of Preeminence, amongst many other things, which is one of the business strategies that is deeply effective, creates breakthroughs, and is relevant for today's time. I want to know everything about how can we apply all this wisdom to the current world that we're in. Welcome, Jay Abraham.
Thank you very much, Simon. What a nice build-up. I hope I can deliver adequately for your audience. And you said your audience is all over, but very heavy in the U.S. And I look forward to touching them. I live in California. You said a lot of them are in California, so we have commonality. And it's a nice day today in California. A little brisk, but probably not as cold as other parts of the world. So ask me anything you want. I'll do my best to try to answer and serve your audience.
One of the strategies that you have developed is the strategy of preeminence. How does it apply to the world we're living in right now?
Well, if you think about the world we're living in right now, there's a number of factors that are affecting or afflicting or compromising it. If you're anybody that does any kind of commerce, any business, first of all, consumers are very scared. They don't know what's happening in the future, uncertainty. Second, they're worried about choices, where to choose trust. They're worried about not spending, but dissipating money on things that won't work or people that aren't really going to deliver. They are indiscriminate, meaning they can't tell who has something good. When you are in that kind of a situation, the easiest thing to do is nothing. It's to contemplate, procrastinate, equivocate, uh, and do nothing. So if you understand, which hopefully I can at least simplify and clarify real quickly, the strategy of preeminence, it was designed to purposely create for a company, a business, an entrepreneur, a practice, the ability to stand out so favorably in the eyes of the target audience that you, your company, your product, your service, your people are seen as the only possible choice somebody could make, as the most trusted advisor they could turn to, as the real advocate champion they could really turn to, as the entity or the person that they could basically trust to guide them on what to do, what not to do, why to do. And so it's very powerful if you can not just understand it and not just try to implement it, but live it. It is a philosophical strategy or a strategic philosophy that guides, governs, drives your entire business being. It becomes your advertising approach, your sales approach, your cultural approach, the communication, the advertising, the belief system, how everybody in your organization, or if you're a single entrepreneur, how you live, communicate, interact with people. It's very powerful. It's very liberating, and it's very intoxicating, because if you understand it at its purest sense and you live it, your business and you are operating at a rarefied strategy of understanding and impact that is well above almost everybody else. So it's very powerful.
Did you see any changes with AI and automation? Is empathy now even more pronounced, or is it going in the wrong direction?
I think that real empathy is lessening because I don't know that AI really has that ability yet, although it does have the ability to understand facets of a human being that we don't always, because if we are in a selling mode or a marketing mode, we're very, very self consumed, even if we don't understand it. The more you understand the hopes, the dreams, what it's like to be in the day to day life of your prospective client, and you convey that you understand that, the more connectivity you have. I don't know. I think that the best thing about AI is not its ability to write copy. It's ability to help you, if you give it the right prompts, understand at a deeper level the drives that are both consciously and subconsciously motivating people towards or away from different decisions. If you understand not just what they want, but the why behind it. A lot of people don't even know what they know what they think they want, but they have never even put it into clarified words, and they don't really have clarity on why they want more of or less of, why they're trying to get away from something or get closer. And the more you understand it and you're able to communicate that I understand that you want this and this because, and that you don't want this and this because, the more they can trust you, because they think he or she or that company or that salesperson really gets me. They really understand me. And that's very powerful. But most people, I don't think, use it for that. They use it just superficially to write copy. We use it to want to know everything we can understand that we've never thought about the drives, the hopes, dreams, fears, motives, language patterns that the target audience we're going after feel, or maybe are driven by, but have never articulated. And if you use it for that, it's quite profound.
Many of our listeners, they rely on referrals to fill pipeline and deal flow. You went really deep with referrals. Do you have some examples?
I do, but I think before I give you the examples, with permission, I should make a very sort of an interventional perspective that most people don't think about. And if you allow me, it could be very profound. May I?
Please.
So, uh, anybody who generates a majority of their business from referrals should think about this. A referral generated buyer buys quicker, negotiates less, trusts more, buys more combinations, more profitable, buys more often, refers more people, and costs you nothing. They are the premier source of business. And yet, most people who get majority of their business from referrals don't even have one, Simon, not even one formalized, systematized, uh, I call it a referral strategy that is implemented and adhered to by them and their team all the time. And yet they will waste money on advertising, on marketing, on doing all kinds of webinars, all that stuff, when in fact that kind of trust is the outer periphery. When you do something to an audience that doesn't know you, it's the outer periphery of trust. You have to go from them being tentative about you to commitment. That's a lot of different stages. Whereas if you go to the people that already know you, trust you, have entrusted you with their money, and you implement proven referral generating systems and strategies, you can own mind share. There are many ways to do it. We've studied it over 50 years almost. So I have about 125 ways to do it. 125, a lot. Most people don't have one. The probability, Simon, of anybody doing 125 is zero. But if you do none and you added 3 to 5 or 7, it could double, redouble again. The most profitable, the most desirable, and the most lucrative aspect of your business. So a couple of, I mean, again, we have 125. The easiest one, but it's the hardest for most people, is to make referral generation a condition of doing business with you. If you are a professional and you have the ability to distinguish yourself as the premier, if you're preeminent in the eyes of your market, you just tell them in the very beginning of the dialogue, I am a referral generated business. I made a conscious decision when I started that I could invest a lot of my time, effort, and capital and resources in marketing and advertising. And for a lot of people that wouldn't convert, or I could put all those resources into value added, into expertise, into more knowledge and more services to my clients. And instead, I would depend on my clients' successful outcomes in their relationships to me and with me to generate new future business for me. So if you want to do business with me, I'm going to tell you what my criteria is and what you should expect from me, and then what I should expect from you. And you start and say, let's take if you're a financial advisor, you would say that I will basically look at your portfolio and your income and your investment capabilities and your long-term goals as if you were my children, my father, mother, my wife, and I will give you the best reasoned expert advice based on what I would do if you were I. I will not do anything to make more commissions. I will not do anything that is any way, shape, or form outside what is best for you, whether it's minimizing your risk, maximizing your income or your growth. And I will tell you exactly why I recommend each area and what I think the implication is and why I don't recommend more risk. I will do everything in my power to preserve and grow your investment so that when you're ready to retire or you need it for something else, it keeps growing safely, solidly, continuously at a level and a rate beyond what alternative sources, my competitors, could do. I will always be there for you. Now, that's what I will do for you. When you need me, I will always respond to you within, as long as it's daytime, within 2 hours. If I'm out of town, within a day. If it's a weekend and it's urgent, I'll be there for you as well. I want to be your most trusted advisor and the most reliable expert source you'll ever turn to for life. That's what I'll do. What I need you to do if you want to have a relationship, so that I can put full effort, time, attention, and resources into you and my other clients, and not waste time on advertising or marketing or webinars or all that, is that every 6 months, as long as I deliver on my end, I need you to refer to me at least one equal quality prospective client that has similar goals, similar ethical standards, similar profile, and is looking for someone they can absolutely trust for life. And you just establish it like that. And then you say, and if you don't feel comfortable doing that, I can still work with you, but I will have to charge you a premium because I'm not getting back the consideration that I'm willing to waive, so I don't have to waste time, effort on advertising. And I've seen that work. I have seen programs you do that you do, like exclusive programs you do for your clients and their guests, and you encourage them to bring one or two guests. I have seen uh, I have seen special events where you make an offer where you can bring extra people. I have uh, I have created for clients, if they're localized in the United States. I don't know if in Europe, Simon, but they're what's called lead clubs. Lead clubs are where 30 or 40 different non-competitive companies come
Mm.
together, a couple $1,000s a year, and then once a month or at some equal frequency, they come together and they have lunch or breakfast and they just talk about each other's business and they get to know and appreciate one another. And through that very, very non-pressured um, networking concept, they start referring to each other. And the average person gets about 50 good referrals every year from it. So it's very powerful, but it's a very limited type of a process. We've gotten our clients to create their own lead clubs. They'll go in their city, and they'll put together collections of 30 or 40 non-competitive businesses, and maybe they'll create 15 or 20 different groups, and my client will organize it. They won't charge them anything, but my client will be the hub, so that every month they are organizing 20 different groups of 30 non-competitive people who come together to talk about their business. But my client, because he or she or they are are the organizer, they are the hub, but they also are talking about their business as well. And the byproduct, after you build it up over 3 to 6 months, is you get thousands of leads from it. I mean, I can go on and on, but there's many different easy or sophisticated ways to dramatically multiply your referral business.
Love this. Lead clubs. I've seen two types of lead clubs. One where people came together just to get referrals, and then another one where they would work on each other's business issue, build trust first, and then ask for referrals, and they had different outcomes.
Yeah, it's you could do any combination. The beauty of my work is that it's fluid, meaning that you're like it's the equivalent of a kaleidoscope. You can create whatever kind of hybrid works best for you, depending on your goal, your integrity. Uh, I like long playing a long game, meaning not being in a hurry. But some people, frankly, are in need of more capital, so they could do things that are a little more. We call it front end loaded, where it gets more immediacy. But if you're playing a long game, you get a lot more trust because you're not in a hurry to
Hmm.
monetize it. Again, that's what I would prefer doing, but it doesn't mean you have to. There's no right or wrong, and it could be dynamic. Meaning, if you need cash, you could start with more short term, but as it works, move your whole identity to more long term contribution. But if you had, to say you had 5 groups of 30 that you were managing and also contributing to, and they were getting to know you, that would be 150 companies. And if the average company has 500 clients and they have vendors and they have colleagues, that means you have a network you're creating of potential lead sources that are in the thousands. And then if every year you kept doubling that, after 3 to 5 years you might have 20,000 sources you're tapping into. It gets very interesting, and I've done that for clients. It works, but it only works if you work it. Most people get excited, Simon, about the concept, but they really don't let it play out. What I've found in most of the people I've ever shared my methodology to is they get very excited, then they do the very minimalist. We teach, for example, power partnerships, strategic alliances, joint ventures, co-branding, being the recommended provider, and endorsement. Um, and when I used to do my seminars, and I told you this offline, we did $250 million, not million, billion. We did $250 million of seminars in about 3 years, many years ago, decades ago when I was young. And the reason we did it was I didn't just have one partner. I had something like 60. I had every major financial newsletter promoting my seminars to their entrepreneurial market. Uh, I had 3 business magazines. I had all the airline magazines. I had 4 different seminar companies here. 2 were financial service companies. The others were business and management seminars. I had the top promoters in the UK, in Singapore, Japan, China, Malaysia. I had them in France, in Italy, in Spain, and the combination was unbelievable. But most people will do 1 or 2 and they stop because they have very limited aspirations and limited sense of possibility.
Love this. One of the breakthroughs I have seen you do over the last decades is finding hidden assets in businesses that nobody was seeing. They were in plain sight, but they wouldn't see them. You have a process for that. After one word from our sponsors, I want to ask you about that.
Sure.
What if your business would run well even when you are on vacation? Discover how 1,600 business owners have regained their freedom using the Strategy Sprint's blueprints. how they enjoy living their dream and watching their business scale. Get the exact checklists they use to go from stressed to fulfilled using the Strategy Sprints method. Order your copy of Strategy Sprints 12 Ways to Accelerate Growth for an Agile Business on Amazon today. And if you love it, leave us a review. For more information, head over to strategysprints.com. Is one of the hidden assets the relationships that they have?
Sure. I mean, when you're looking at hidden assets, overlooked opportunities, underperforming revenue activities, underutilized relationships, there's many kinds of relationships. The first are internal ones. Internal ones mean you could look at your buyer base, and if you look at profiles, oftentimes people self-identify, but companies don't recognize them. Maybe you have a high number of people who are into bicycling or into pickleball or into anything. Well, when you identify them, that is an area you can go for. Maybe there's somebody that has prominence in an industry that is a client of yours and you've never thought to get him or her to endorse you. Maybe there is a correlation that you've never looked at, that a certain ad produces many more back end sales than another, but you've never analyzed that. Maybe there is variation in your salespeople's performance, and you've never tried to figure out who is better at different parts of the sales process. Some might be better at selling young people, some may be better at selling real business owners, some may be better at closing, but you don't always know that, so you don't optimize. I can go on and on and on and on. We've got something like 60 different distinctive denominators we have identified, but there's low hanging fruit, and then there's overlooked assets. There's also what's called, Simon, revenue system optimization, and what that means is pretty interesting. Every business has a revenue system, even if it's not a strategic one, if it's really one that is almost accidental. It's how they generate their business. It could be anything from being located in a shopping center that has traffic, if you're a retailer. It could be targeting a certain audience in a certain way, but you have a mechanism. You start by understanding theoretically that you're after a certain audience. You try to figure out where they are most likely to be sourced from. Then you try to figure out the best vehicle to reach them. Then you figure out the best way to start a relationship if you're selling either an expensive multi decision making process, or whether it's something simple and inexpensive, whether it's one shot, whether it's multi purchase, whether there's many combinations. All those are factors you consider. Then you figure out, okay, what is the first communication or impact that I have to make? What am I trying to evoke as far as a response? What am I going to do when I get that response? How am I going to either advance it or close it? If I'm going to just advance it, what am I going to do next and next so I don't lose them? If I'm going to try to close them, am I going to close them for one time? Am I going to try to add ethically other products or services? Am I going to try to set them up for the next one? When I'm done with everything I have to sell them, am I going to give up, or am I going to try to monetize them ethically in other ways? Because it's a sunk cost, and most people don't understand utility value, Simon. Utility value means how many more ethical ways can I monetize a prospect that doesn't buy, a buyer that buys once and never buys again, a buyer that buys everything and I have nothing else to sell them, a distribution channel I only use for one thing. I can get on and on, but it's deeper thinking than most people really are used to embracing.
This is why it costs a quarter million to work with you, because in 5 minutes, you just gave people like 26 possible ways to optimize their revenue streams. And we hear your experience. What are you seeing right now happening in the markets that people shouldn't do?
Well, I see a lot of desperate people. I think in the last couple of a month and a half, probably because a lot of things that are going on that are confusing in Washington, D.C. here, that consumers are slowing down in their commitments, that business is dropping, that a lot of people selling expertise information are seeing very, very significant slowdowns. And all they're doing to try to compensate is more of the same. And if what you're doing isn't working, more of the same probably isn't the solution. You have to figure out a way to make it more compelling for people to make a commitment. It has to be more either certain of an outcome or more well protected, which is risk reversal. You have to try to help people. We're getting ready, just as an example, and I'm having an ADD moment. I'm attention deficit, so I'm switching for a minute. We've been preparing a massive experiment we're going to do, which is going to be called uh, the uh, the Unstoppable Business Playbook, but it's really going to be semi called "What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do." Because what
Mm.
happens, there are a lot of younger, and younger can mean age, or younger can mean just how long they've been an entrepreneur, business people today that have never ever had to navigate adversity. They've never had setbacks. They've never operated in a recession. They've never seen when people are apprehensive and when business drops 50%. So they're devastated, they're paralyzed, they're totally at a loss of what to do other than either stopping totally or throwing a lot more money in the same thing
Mhm.
that isn't working. And neither of those are a good solution. You have to understand why people stop spending money. They stop spending money because number one, they're afraid. They're afraid that uh, whatever their security is, whether it's a job or whether it's their own business or profession, will drop, and that they need to preserve their capital. They're afraid that whatever you're selling is not going to produce the result that is being promised, and it will be their money will be gone, and there will be no major positive outcome. They're worried that what they decide upon, not just you and your company and your product, but your category, isn't the best choice. I mean, give you a simple example. If I were trying to lose weight and you were selling a supplement, I could buy your supplement, but there'd be many other people selling supplements. But there's also people selling a lot of alternatives. In weight loss, I could buy uh, I could buy portion control food. I could buy exercise equipment. I could get a coach. I could basically get injections with Ozempic, and it depends on why I want weight loss. If I want it for physicality, and I want to look really attractive, I could do other things at the same time. Well, you're competing constantly against many more people in your category and many alternatives. And the biggest competition you ever have is inaction, people contemplating, people equivocating, people procrastinating. And in a time like right now here, I don't know what it's like in Europe, but there are many people today are frozen, and not just consumers, but business people. When the cost, if you're on fixed income and eggs are off the, they're off the chart expensive, and gas is off the chart expensive, and electricity is off the chart expensive. And if your income doesn't increase, you're not going to be comfortable spending money on things you don't need, even if they're promising. If you're a business and you're not certain what your buyers are going to be doing in the next few months because of events that look scary, tariffs, and people being losing their jobs, then you are going to be very mindful of holding on to your capital, and it's a domino effect. So, in order to overcome those, you have to have a proposition that starts, Simon, by addressing, we call it the elephant in the room, the truth. And you can say, I know you're concerned about the future, and here's why my company or my product or my service is is arguably the best possible decision you can make. And then you give them the reasons why. And then if you can do it, you do risk reversal. And you say, and to prove it to you, and then you give them, there's many ways to do risk reversal. You can say, to prove it to you, before you ever commit, get on the phone with our advisor. He will walk you through what we're going to do, how it's going to work, what you can expect, and prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt before you even finalize your commitment that we can deliver, and it will solve your financial problem if that's what you're selling. If you can't do that, then you say, we will guarantee that if you follow the process and you document it and it fails to do X and Y amount of time, we'll give you a refund, or we'll give you a pro rata refund. There's about 7 different ways to use risk reversal, but there's plenty of research, Simon, that when you use the appropriate risk reversal, it honestly singularly has the ability by itself to double, redouble, even redouble again sales, buy-in, commitment. But you need to understand the psychology of the market right now, because doing more of what's not working and spending more money and wasting more opportunity costs, and if you understand it, it costs you more to do nothing. But if you do the wrong thing, you're just going to dissipate your opportunity cost and your capital, and you may not get it back in an environment like this. So you got to be very strategic, using the word we talked about. You've got to understand the psychology and the mindset of your market, and you've got to experiment conservatively. Most people don't really test very much. You talked about breakthroughs. I got trained when I was younger on 2 things: incremental, multiple incremental improvements in all these factors we talked about. For example, revenue system optimization, where you have a system with maybe 20 different interconnected factors. And if you improved each one a mere 10%, that could be a hundreds of percent combined geometric impact on your bottom line. But the additional thing is to go after breakthroughs. You can have a marketing breakthrough, a strategy breakthrough, a business model breakthrough, a advertising breakthrough, a competitive positioning breakthrough, a distribution channel breakthrough, a partnering breakthrough, a process system breakthrough, a sales system breakthrough. You can have a ideological breakthrough where you shift your whole mindset. You can have relational capital breakthroughs, and most people don't try to get any breakthroughs.
What can people do to be less worried, to experiment? We break it down into 7 days. On Monday, we say, guys, what's the bottleneck? What can we build 2, 3 days
I love
that
that.
costs nothing and can invalidate our assumptions? Because sometimes the risk is, to lose money, to lose reputation if it's bigger.
Well, here's what someone taught me. They taught me that if every month you test conservatively, and conservative is a relative term. If you're little, maybe you only test $500. Maybe it's 1,000. If you're bigger, maybe you test at $10,000. We always test $30,000 or $40,000 of experiments every month. He said you'll probably lose 80% of the time, but it won't be 100%.
80%. Mm.
Yeah, they said if you do 2 tests a month, that means you're going to uncover almost 5 breakthroughs a year, and you only need 1 to transform your business. But you'll never get them if, and it's funny because most people, they don't really test what I'll call decisively different approaches. They just test different ways of doing the same thing.
Mm.
So it's not really a good experiment. And even in something like a funnel, anybody that does a funnel, if you think about it, or any kind of an ascendancy, or just a systematic process of converting an inquiry or an opt-in or prospect or a lead into a buyer, and then continuing the journey, most people just keep sending out the same message over and over and over again. There's no variation. Where if you think about it, there might be 20 or 30 different hot buttons or factors that are of relevancy to different people. Everyone isn't motivated by the very same thing. We've proven we've created 13 weeks of totally different approaches that hit a whole different aspect of a proposition. and we've gotten 3-4 times more buy-in, more sales, more conversions, more clients than we ever did when we just kept sending the same message over and over and over. But the vast majority of people, frankly, Simon, they are not willing to be, they aren't research scientists trying to experiment. They don't understand that R&D, research and development, which is most associated with pharma or technology, applies to entrepreneurs. You want to research and develop breakthroughs in marketing, new ways to do it, new markets to go after, new media, new platforms, new ways to start a relationship, to convert a relationship, to sustain and perpetuate the lifetime value. You want to find new ways to sell. You want to find new ways to distinguish your business ahead of everybody else, new ways to monetize. And if you're not constantly trying to make your current approaches obsolete, you can be certain your competitors are going to do it to you and for you. So there's no escaping it. Also, it's interesting. Everybody sells, and I'm not demeaning it, but everyone sells people on the same methodology. Well, if you're fortunate enough to gain that methodology very early in the game, and you're one of the few first people, the early adopters, you have a short window, Simon. But if you're learning to do the same thing everybody else does the same way, then it just becomes standard operating procedure. You're going to have very little advantage because you're all going to be doing pretty much the same thing the same way to the same market in the same platforms or media. So there's no advantages there.
Can I double click into this process? So, decisively different experiments. Most of us, including myself, we skip that step and we have a hunch, maybe a feeling that something could be done better, but it's incrementally better. It's not a systematic process of, hey, once a month, we will try something that's actually different to
Yep.
find out if there is a step change here, if there is an actual breakthrough. Um, Tell us about that part of the process, and then later on, how do you structure that month-long experiment? Who runs it? Because the founders are usually more risk tolerant and they go into a weekend, but you probably don't wanna tax your team who's with experiments on top of the maintenance work that they have to do. So I have so many questions, but let's start with the decisively different.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, most really meaningful breakthroughs come from outside your industry, not inside it. Some cases in point, and some of the people you deal with might be too young to appreciate this, but fiber optics transformed telecommunication. It changed everything. Everyone thinks it was discovered and pioneered by telecommunication. It was not. It was discovered in aerospace and borrowed. Uh, uh, Federal Express delivery created a whole industry by borrowing a process that our Federal Reserve Bank uses to make sure we clear checks first thing in the morning and people can't bounce checks. And they use the same, it's called a hub and spoke check clearing to clear packages so they could get them all over the country by 10 in the morning. The ballpoint pen or roll on deodorant, one of them borrowed it from each other. Rogaine for hair started with pimple medicine. Viagra was a heart medicine. The number one baby buggy manufacturer in the world that does $400 million borrowed the collapsible wheels from airplanes. The point is, if you're not looking outside your business or your industry or your comfort zone for breakthroughs, you will probably never find them because they really don't frequently and most often come from within.
Yes. So the importance of really looking fresh to your problem, not just optimizing. Now we have an idea and we go, ooh, that might work. Like I had before Christmas, I had this idea. Maybe we put everything in one place and it's an app, and it was Christmas. So I didn't tell my team to do it. I just did it over Christmas. I came back from holidays and I said, guys, we have a new thing. I tested something and it's working. How to make sure that the team doesn't burn out when we bring too many experiments or too intense of experiments?
Well, I think it's they have to be on the same page philosophically. If you have a team, you have to decide, do you want us to be a growth company, a stagnant company, or a debt company? Because you either grow or die. You expand or you contract. You multiply or you diminish. So it's a given. Unless you grow, you're going to die. So if you say we want to grow, and growth comes from breakthroughs, and breakthroughs comes from experimentation. Experimentation comes from losing more often than winning, but controlling your risk. We are going to constantly be experimenting, but they will be safe tests. They will be small tests. And I'll need you all to be open to helping us engineer those breakthroughs, because those breakthroughs are going to be the fuel and the engine that will drive your own growth and your success and your income um, increases that I'll be able to reward you with. And if they're not on board, you better get somebody else to work with you that shares your long-term vision, because the only way you will sustain and survive, let alone thrive in this world today, is by constantly coming up with breakthroughs. And the concept, Simon, of innovation is a little bit misunderstood. Everybody thinks that it needs to be driven by technological, by AI, by big data, by all kinds of technical type of activities. It can be, but all if you just bring greater benefit. If everybody in your competitive market, if you're a retailer and you're open till 5 and everybody's open till 5 and you start being open till 10 and you're open on weekends and nobody else is, that's innovation. That's a breakthrough. If I need a customer support and it's only available 5 days and you start making it available 24/7, that's innovation, even if it's just a human being. So you just have to understand that you'll never grow if you just keep doing what everybody, you'll never grow meaningfully, and you'll never grow competitively advantageously if you keep doing what everybody else does the same way they do it. You'll always be at risk. You will always be at risk. I believe, and I'll see if I can explain this in a simple enough way, Simon, that a true breakthrough entrepreneur, we call it an exponential entrepreneur, who's not content achieving mere incremental, short, small, very, very uh, modest gains. Somebody who's really going for breakthroughs. They don't want an equal playing field. They don't want to play the game the same way everybody else does. They want every ethical advantage they can get, every marketing advantage, every strategy advantage, every distribution advantage, every positioning advantage, every compelling, um, motivating advantage, every psychological advantage. And if you don't think that way, it's only a matter of time before you're going to frankly be marginalized by people who do think that way. That's about as frank and as sincere as I can be, Simon.
You have built an empire and it's documented, and uh, people, all his books are amazing. Some audiobooks are wonderful to listen multiple times to. One question, Jay: if you were 30 again, which business decisions would you make earlier or differently?
Well, it's a good question. If I were your age or I was 30, I would not be doing what I'm doing anymore. I was on a mission to help entrepreneurs the world over. And so I went into training and I went into teaching and I went into educating and I went into consulting. I would have probably just used my skill set to acquire underperforming businesses, blow them up, and either sell them or create an aggregate empire of my own. I've chosen a career where I was more externally focused on helping everybody around the world. I think that when you're at 30, you have to decide, what do you want the rest of your life to look like. There's two different distinctions, Simon. You can work harder and harder all the time for your business, or you can create a business that works harder and harder for you. If you don't have a business that has highly repetitive, recurring income from the same audience, then you're going to work many times harder, and it's going to be many times less sellable because it doesn't have predictable revenue. The more predictable and sustainable and certain the revenue stream, the more value that business has, and the easier it is on you. So I would say anybody who's starting a business today, think clearly, at the same time, same effort, same investment, same resources, same opportunity cost, same passion can be used for something you sell once and you have to find somebody else, or somebody you sell once and they keep buying from you over and over again. So I would look at that, and I would look at niches. Most people try to compete in the mass world where there's much more sophisticated marketers with bigger pocketbooks and more sophistication. Look for niches no one's going after.
I love this. And in the Sprint Club, we are looking a lot at holding co business models and buying small businesses. So this is something that we resonate a lot with.
Good.
Jay, is there anything I forgot to ask you?
Well, probably not. I mean, you didn't ask about what I do these days. I'll be happy to tell you. I
Please.
work. Yeah, I
Yes.
work privately with mid-sized companies that have reasonable resources and infrastructures, and we work trying to massively multiply their performance, their profitability, and their asset value, their net worth. And I get a retainer, and then I get shares of the revenue. We're always looking for those kind of businesses. Occasionally we do weekend makeovers that are very expensive and very intimate, but I prefer working with entrepreneurs on the, we call it the front lines of capitalism, with people that are really doing it, that are really playing the game fully each and every day, and they're playing not just to succeed, they're playing to, to be victorious and win, and they don't want to play it the way everybody else plays it. So that's what I do. We still have some new books we're working on that are embodiments of our belief system. We've got a new document we're working on called the Breakthrough Blueprint, the Big Idea Breakthrough Blueprint. We got another one called um, Unstoppable Business Growth Playbook. We've got another one called Taking Your Business Profits Beyond Exponential. We got another one that is called Thinking Differently About Your Business. We're always working on, and we have one I never finished called The Alpha Life, which is all about um, taking every facet of your business, career, life, health, wealth to asymmetric, beyond normal levels of upside, and minimizing the downside. Got a lot of things we're working on, but most of my time is working privately with clients that are large enough that they will apply the kind of methodology, strategy, and advice that I give them. And then I take time to do things like this, where hopefully I can positively shock people to think differently about their own businesses.
You have definitely given us so much to work with. I will re-listen to this, and hopefully every listeners will take notes and implement these things. Looking forward
Nice.
to the Alpha Life and your next work, Jay. Thank you so much for being in the Sprint Club, and see you on the other side.
All right. Thank you very much.
Avoid trying to do thousands of things that doesn't work. We have 274 templates for your business success. Reach your ambitious goals with one-on-one sprint coach. We double your revenue in 90 days.
What if your business would run well even when you are on vacation? Discover how 1,600 business owners have regained their freedom using the Strategy Sprints blueprints. How they enjoy living their dream and watching their business scale. Get the exact checklists they use to go from stressed to fulfilled using the Strategy Sprints method. Order your copy of Strategy Sprints 12 Ways to Accelerate Growth for an Agile Business on Amazon today. And if you love it, leave us a review. For more information, head over to strategysprints.com.